Hosea was a prophet of God who developed his ministry in the northern kingdom of Israel. Hosea is considered the author of the biblical book that bears his name. The book of Hosea reveals to us the tender love of God towards humanity. Hosea was a young prophet who the Bible narrates was single, which is why he was waiting for the woman of his life. The tradition, at that time in the Middle East, was that a prophet had to marry a virgin woman, a pure woman. However, God did not order Hosea to look for a wife in the temple, but rather told him that instead of looking for her among the virgins, as was the tradition, he would look for her in the street. God ordered him to go to the worst neighborhood in the city and there take a prostitute to be his wife. In this video, we will be talking about why did Hosea marry a prostitute? Before delving deeper into this topic, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Let's start. The prophet Hosea was a contemporary of the prophets Amos, Micah, and Isaiah. In many ways, the prophet Hosea can be compared to the prophet Jeremiah. Jeremiah was the last prophet before the southern kingdom was taken into captivity. However, over 100 years before this event, Hosea had been a prophet in the northern kingdom. The latter occupied the same position that Jeremiah occupied, with the mission of warning the nation of their imminent captivity. Both prophets spoke out of harrowing personal experience, although Jeremiah's was more public. Hosea's experience was lived in his home. The story of the prophet Hosea is a very sad, and at the time very poving story. This story shows us the tender love of God towards humanity. The prophet Hosea was deceived, despised, and hurt by his wife Gomer, whom Jehovah asked him to marry. Let's read Hosea. Chapter 1 verse 2 says, "The first time the Lord spoke through Hosea, he said to him, 'Go and take your wife a prostitute, and have with her children of prostitution, because the country is completely a prostitute. It has departed from Mister.'" In this verse, we can see that God himself ordered the prophet Hosea to take a prostitute woman. Hosea obeyed the order of God. The Bible account narrates that the prophet Hosea went and took a woman called Gomer. Not much is known about Gomer. The scriptures only tell us that she was the daughter of Diblaim. Bible students believe that Gomer was a temple prostitute, which was common in the cult of Baal. The prophet Hosea, by God's ordinance, married this woman and had 3 children. The name of the children of Hosea with Gomer, God himself named them. And the reason for this is because each name had a prophetic meaning for Israel. The first son of Hosea was called Jezreel, which means God's punishment to the house of Jehu. The second son of Hosea and Gomer was a girl who was called Lo Ruhamah, which means not loved nor pitched. The name is a symbol that God would no longer pity Israel. And the third son of Hosea and Gomer was called Lo Ami, which means because you are not my people, nor will I be your God. In chapter 2 of Hosea, it narrates that Gomer, after having 3 children with the prophet Hosea, returned again to practice prostitution and did not care about the love that Hosea had given him. What terrible suffering must have been caused to Hosea when he heard the rumors that began to circulate about his wife. Let's read Hosea chapter 2 verse 5. "Because their mother was a prostitute, she who gave birth them dishonored herself, because she said, 'I will go after my lovers, who give me my bread and my water, my wool and my linen, my oil and my drink.'" In this verse, we can see that Gomer was acting like this for money. We all know that money drives prostitution, and this detail leads to understanding that the prophet Hosea was a financially poor man who could not provide the luxuries that his wife Gomer wanted to have. For this reason, Gomer practiced prostitution again. But there came a day when Gomer was no longer beautiful or attractive. For this reason, her lovers lost interest in her. Gomer, when seeing her unhappy condition, wanted to return to her husband Óseas. Let's read Hosea chapter 2 verse 7. "He will follow his lovers and will not reach them. He will seek them and will not find them. Then he will say, 'I will go and return to my first husband because I was better then than now.'" Gomer. Although he wanted to return to Hosea, he never did it. Rather, by God's ordinance, Hosea went in search of her. Let's read Hosea Chapter 3, Jehovah told me again, he loves a woman beloved by her companion, even though an adulterer like him. Love of Jehovah for the children of Israel, who look at foreign gods and love raisin cakes. In this verse, we can see that the order of the Lord to the prophet Hosea was, "Go and love a woman," better said, your wife. The biblical account gives us understanding that the prophet Hosea continued loving Gomer, despite all his infidelities. According to the law of Moses, Hosea could accuse Gomer of adultery, and Gomer had stoned to death. But because of the love he had for him, he didn't do it. In Hosea chapter 3, verse 2, it narrates that the prophet Hosea obeyed the order of God. So he went and bought Gomer. Let's read what the Bible account says. "Then I bought it for myself, for 15 shekels of silver and a homer and half of barley." This verse wants to make us understand that Gomer had sold herself to some group of people who were in charge of the brothers in that place. For this reason, the prophet Hosea had to go buy her in order to bring her back to his home. This scene reminds us of the love of Jesus Christ towards humanity. Jesus Christ ripped his glory and came to earth to buy us with his own blood. Let's read 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 20. "For you were bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's." In Hosea chapter 3, verse 3, it narrates that after the prophet Hosea bought his wife Gomer, he told him, "You will be mine for many days. You will not prostitute yourself or give yourself to another man, and I will do the same with you." The story of the prophet Hosea is very moving. Even though his wife Gomer had been unfaithful, he continued to love her. This story had a purpose from God. Israel represents Gomer. The sin that Israel practiced was the same thing that Gomer did. Israel had given itself to idols, which constituted spiritual adultery. But despite all this, God continued to love them. Today, Israel does not believe in Jesus as the Messiah, but despite all of that, God will deal with that beloved nation and will come its restoration. My dear friend, also, even though this story was like a demonstration of God's love towards Israel, this story also has a lot to teach us. We all at some point was away without a direction or destination. Some engaged in alcoholism, others in drug addiction, and many at some moment thought about suicide. But Jesus Christ also came to his love, conquered our hearts. Hosea bought Gomer with 15 shekels of silver and a homer and a half of barley, but Jesus Christ bought us with his blood. For this reason, my friend, if you feel alone without love from your family, from your wife or husband, remember that Jesus Christ, he loves much, his love will always remain. The Bible says that even though we are unfaithful, he always remains faithful. And if we are reaching the end of this video, tell us what you think about Óseas and Gomer. Leave us your opinion in the comments, and without more to say, now, I'm goodbye, and it will be with you until a next video.